I mean, you got to set solid dates where it's like, look, if this ain't open by this time, I am out of time. And if I'm out of time, I'm out of time and whatever. I don't control the ice and I don't control the weather, right? So now the weather, usually I can deal with one way or another. Ice, you can't, right? First off, this is a fiberglass boat. Second off, the Titanic was made of steel. It didn't help the Titanic. So it's just ice. Pack ice is a totally different animal than icebergs. And, it will crush you, kill you, shipwreck you. It do all sorts of terrible things. It goes on for hundreds of miles, millions and millions of pounds of pack ice. You just can't, there's no way you can fight it.
This episode is sponsored by BVI Yacht Sales, our friends from Tortola and Annapolis. I've known Ted and Brian for most of my sailing career, and I would trust those guys to buy or sell my dream boat. Check out our Quarterdeck podcast where we do some boat shopping things, and we pick apart the listings from BVI Yacht Sales amongst other brokers, talk about some broker BS, and generally nerd out over boats. Check out bviyachtSales.com if you want to look at the boats they have listed right now, or if you want to buy your own dream boat elsewhere, they can be your buyer's broker. Awesome guys there, and thanks to them for sponsoring this episode of the show. Again, that's bviyachtSales.com. Thanks for sponsoring the show. On the Wind is sponsored by Weems and Plath, our old friends from Annapolis, right across the street from where we do our party at J-World. I just put a new mast in SPICA this year, and of course we outfitted it with Weems and Plath nav lights. We've got a tricolor anchor light at the top. We've got a steaming light on the front of the mast, and while I was at it, I got bow and stern lights as well. Same lights we use on Falcon and Eastbjorn. I've got a Weems and Plath. Well, I've got a sextant from Weems and Plath. I've got a chronometer on my desk at home from Weems and Plath. I've had all sorts of Weems and Plath stuff over the years. Check out their full catalog at weems-plath.com. And if you're in Annapolis, visit the showroom over in Eastport. They always have an awesome tent sale during Boat Show. Again, that's weems-plath.com. Thanks to them for sponsoring this episode of the show. Ahoy, shipmates. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm sitting in the cabin of SPICA. It's a Friday, August 7th. I've got crew coming on Sunday for the last trip of the year, the second trip in the Stockholm archipelago on SPICA. Definitely going to be doing this again next year, although we'll probably only have one trip. That'll be up on the website soon. It's been so fun. I've basically spent the last 6 weeks on SPICA cruising around the Stockholm archipelago, and I just love it more and more the more time I spend out here. It's so great. Hope to have some of you sailing with me next year or another time. Thinking about putting together like a flotilla where I'd bring 3 people on SPICA and then we'd charter a couple other boats and sail in company to all these different places. And it'd be a great chance to kind of, if you want to captain your own boat and I can be the guide, come along. This is a half-baked idea, but if you hear this intro and think it would sound cool, shoot me an email because I think it would be pretty awesome to do that. And there's some really cool ways they have like a app over here called Skippery where you can like charter other people's boats. It's like Airbnb for boats. So you can get some pretty unique boats doing that, not just your standard plastic fantastics. So half-baked idea on that. Anyway, today's podcast with Matt, just got done recording. Awesome episode. If you make it all the way to the end, I've started doing these takeaways. So I have like a few minutes of what my takeaways were of the episode. So if you make it to the end of this or you want to hear it, don't miss that. Of course, donate to Matt's ORP. The whole point of his Arctic sailing expedition right now is to raise money for the Ocean Research Project. Go to oceanresearchproject.org if you want to donate directly, or you can come to our crew party in Annapolis in October. That's the Friday of Boat Show, and all the proceeds from the crew party go directly to Matt's Ocean Research Project. We've been able to donate, I think it's in the tens of thousands of dollars now over the years we've been doing this party. Matt's schooner is not going to be there this year, so we're going to have the Woodwind there instead for open house because it's always cool to have a boat on the dock there over at J-World. So check that out. All the events at Boat Show are on our website at 59-north.com/boat show, and you can sign up for that stuff now. Also, we have got only a few trips left in 2026. We've got 3 bunks open on Falcon in September. That's coming quick, from Ensenada in Mexico up to Monterey Bay. And then we've got 1 bunk on Monterey Bay back to Ensenada. That's in November. So if you want to grab a spot on Falcon this year, that's your last chance to do it. And then, of course, on Woodwind, we've got a couple spots on the Great Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race in October and the return adventure cruise up the bay on Woodwind right after that in late October. So you can check out the availability on 59-north.com/open bunks. And next thing for me is boat show. Excited for that. Hope to see all you guys there. And of course, the Skipper's School right after that. So lots going on as usual over here. By the way, this is the whole point of this pre-intro. This episode, since it's kind of happening in real time, I recorded with Matt while he was on his boat, about to enter Russian waters and probably lose Starlink for a little while. We're going to publish this now. The new season of On the Wind doesn't actually start until September, but this is going to come out a couple days after I recorded it, so it's more relevant. And between now and then, the podcast, the Quarterdeck podcast, is going to start up again. So that will be happening starting when you hear this. And then there'll be, I think, 4 or 5 episodes of Quarterdeck podcast. Then we'll start On the Wind interviews again in September. So enjoy this episode. I'm going to be on a little bit of a hiatus while I sail on SPICA and then get back into office mode after that. All right, here we go. You're listening to On the Wind, my podcast about offshore sailing. I'm your host, Andy Schell. Guess what? It's Matt Rutherford on the show again. Matt and I recorded this episode while he was at sea on his Valiant 42, far north of Russia and a few days away from entering the first pinch point on his northern sea route above Siberia. Meanwhile, I was recording from the cabin on SPICA outside of Stockholm. Matt and I talked through how the first 4,000 plus miles of his passage has gone so far, how he was featured in Playboy magazine of all places, what he thinks his chances of success are, and how much he enjoys being at sea alone. I gotta hand it to you now. You've beaten. I have nothing over you anymore. You've been to 81 degrees north. What, it was 81.15 or something like that?
Yeah, it looks like I'm going to go even higher. I've got to take an alternative route to get into the sort of drop down into the heart of the Northern Sea route, the Lac Sea. So it looks like I might be at 81, like 30 or 40, just to get around that top of that island. Yeah, it's up there ways.
So how excited are you to be where you are right now? Just generally.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it was really nice being north of 80. I was up there for several days, north of Svalbard. That was really cool. And being near the ice and nice weather, of course, I wouldn't have been up there if the weather was bad. So that was really nice. Lately, it's been, I've been sailing in like, I don't know, 20, 25, gusting 30 for the last day and a half or so on the beam. So it's kind of been bouncy around here. But yeah, look, I'm a day away from entering the Northern Sea route. I'm in Russian waters technically, but then again, I'm sort of so far from land, and it's such a weird part of Russian waters that you don't have to check in where I'm at. And Starlink still works, where I'm going to lose Starlink in Northern Sea route for the most part, as they banned it February 1st. So
Russia banned it, or Starlink banned Russia?
Russia had already made it sort of, I don't know, I would say like mildly illegal. China did the same. I don't know if you've seen, there was an article, I think it was earlier this year, about a sailor getting a pretty decent fine for sailing into China with a Starlink, and that they're really cracking down on it. Well, Russia's doing the same. It was kind of a weird thing, because on one hand, Russia doesn't want their citizens using Starlink because they don't control Starlink. Yet at the same time, they were using Starlink militarily for some kind of, I don't know, whatever, communicating drones. I don't know what all they're doing. So February 1st, Elon Musk he just cut it off. So if you sail and now the websites and all the information says within 12 miles. So if I get within 12 miles of any Russian island or land or whatever, then I'll lose Starlink. I have no idea if that's the case or not. Like I can't, there's nobody to talk to. All I can do is sail in there and see what happens. And there is enough islands and things north of Russia that, yeah, I mean, sometimes you're going to be sailing into that, through those areas. So you're not going to have a choice. So,
yeah, I mean, we have Starlink on Falcon, and we have to switch it. I guess you have the same. We have to switch it into ocean mode when you're outside 12 miles, or it stops working because for the plan that we have.
Yeah, I've got the marine dish. Okay. So there is only ocean mode. It's only, they call it priority. Yeah. So I've got to pay, you pay a lot more money essentially, right? You're paying out the ass essentially. But it works. It works everywhere, and it works pretty well. So whatever. What's the price of being able to have ice information? And well, I'm going to lose some of that north of Russia. I've got some other people that are going to be sending me some information. Um, but yeah, I think it's worth the money. I know it sucks to spend it, but if you got the money, and considering iridium is just so much slower, and even the iridium executive, have you used the iridium executive? I've been using it.
No, I
I
haven't.
brought it on this trip. It's supposed to be 40 times faster, but what's 40 times faster than watching paint dry? You're still watching paint dry. It doesn't really change it. So it's still pretty inefficient, I guess you could say. You can't get on the internet with it or anything like that. It's just a little faster. It's a lot bigger too. So, anyways, I have that because that's going to be what I have to use. You got to check in with Moscow every 24 hours once you enter the Northern Sea route, and it's illegal not to. So I've got to have a way to communicate with them. Plus, I need to have some ice information. It's a bad ice year above Russia this year. It's weird because it's one of the lowest ice, ice amounts or whatever on record in the Arctic. Where we have record lows in a lot of places. And if you look above Svalbard and above Franz Josef Land, particularly Franz Josef Land next to it, you can get up to like 83, and some places damn near 84 on a damn fiberglass boat. Like it's really receded. And that's why there's this passage opening up on the other side of this series of islands that I'm going to try to take. That's why I got to go up to, 81 plus, 81 and a half or whatever to get over the top of them. And, because normally that would be impossible. Normally the ice is right up against those islands.
So
we'll see what happens.
I'm going to do a quick screen share thing here. I think this is going to work because I've got your tracker pulled up here just to where you're at. So I'll come back to this, but so you're pretty far from land right now, and you're going above this. What is this island's called? Like, can you see this? This island's called Zamoya or something?
Nova Zemlya.
Yeah.
I always call it Nova Zemlya, but there is no B in it. But yeah, it's Nova Zemlya. I think it just means new land in Russian, essentially.
And where are you headed? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
You see those? Yeah. See those islands kind of in the middle?
These two like on their own here?
North?
Yeah.
No, the big ones to the right of them.
Okay. Yeah.
I got to go over the top of those islands and then down the east side.
Damn.
So, yeah, because there's a giant chunk of ice blocking the bottom. So those is Kolchevitz Island is the top one, which means junior member of the Communist Party under the age of 16. And then south of that is October Revolution Island, and with 1917, obviously. And south of that is Bolshevik Island. So normally you would go south of Bolshevik Island. You go south of the third one on the bottom. But there's such a giant chunk of ice there, which is highly abnormal, that there's no way to get through. So they're the only way is to go over the top of that Kolchevitz and then down the east side of October Revolution and Bolshevik into the Laptev Sea, which is that area, that sort of the area in the middle of your screen there.
Yeah. And then do you go north of these other islands further east or south of them, or do you not know yet?
I will if I can. There's a lot of shoaling around there. I was looking at the chart. It's like 30 feet in some places north. There's basically, it's uncharted north of those islands.
Okay.
There's a section of it, and it looks pretty shallow. So, if the weather is good and the ice, right now you couldn't. Right now there's ice over there too. But the general lane is to go underneath of those near the coast. And it's going to be more to do with the ice than it is with me. I don't know what in the world that is.
Well, these are these islands. Now you're getting into Bering Strait here in Alaska. I just wanted to see kind of the big picture, where you are. So Mia asked us this morning. You're not even really amongst any ice yet. I know you went way up north and got up to the pack ice, but you're basically still in open water, right?
Yeah, I can still sleep. So
you can sit down below and do this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm laying on the bed, so to speak, with my sleeping bag on me. So, it's not the warmest place up here, as you can imagine.
What happened back here with this little big backwards traverse in your track?
Oh, that was me being hove to for 60 hours.
60 hours?
There was a big, yeah, there's a big ass, well, it's a combination of things. First off, there was a big low pressure system And like that whole area, basically I was on the top of it, but from there all the way down to sort of the north coast of Russia there, and Norway or whatever, that, was just a massive low. And it was a beautiful low. I mean, it was this perfect circle, but it was a pretty tight, circle. So in other words, it was blowing like a son of a bitch. And it was easier for me to heave to up there where it's only blowing like 20, 25 knots than obviously continuing on and winding up in strong. Plus, it was headwinds.
Well, I was going to say, if you're in a low, you're on the top of that low, it's spinning counterclockwise, so you've got dead headwinds, I guess.
Yeah, that's why I got pushed that way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was pointing north. You can't tell at the line. I was hove to, so my bow was pointing north, but I was getting leeway, shoving me downwind essentially. So, also, the ice needs more time to melt. I knew I was going to have to heave to on one side or the other of Svalbard anyways. So it wasn't like some surprise that I was going to have to heave to. It was just more of a surprise. Was just this big sort of storm developed, and so yeah, I just stayed on the north side of it and slept. And, it wasn't a big deal. Just ate and slept and read a book and just generally relaxed.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be a relief in one way, other than not making any progress. So this is interesting. I'm down here in the Stockholm archipelago, basically right in this little nook. So we're in a similar longitude now. I was curious because you and I were trying to set a time for this. Are you what are you doing with your clocks? Are you do you keep ship's time, and are you changing time zones, or how do you keep time?
Well, right now I've changed everything over to U.S. time just to make sure I didn't screw up this interview I got after you. So I didn't want to mess that up. So last night I changed everything to East Coast time, but I'll be changing everything back to a Moscow time, because I have to check in at 12 o'clock, noon Moscow time every single day. I'm just going to change all my clocks to Moscow time.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, time is irrelevant. When you have 24-hour daylight, it's irrelevant. You can blow through a degree of longitude up here, in no time at all. So I don't know exactly what it is here. I remember the Northwest Passage around 75-ish. It'd be in like a degree of longitude every 16 miles, roughly. So I'm north of that. So it might be every 15 miles, every 14 miles. Yeah, you're just blowing through time zones, So it's just kind of like, man, what does it really matter? I think it's good to have a clock set to East Coast time in the United States somewhere because, if I need to talk to somebody back there, at least I know what time it is. But generally speaking, what does it matter?
Yeah. It's is that I just noticed this now. Is that Bill Murray, Steve Zissou behind you?
Yeah, that's he's smoking a doobie or he's lighting a doobie.
Painting. That I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. So this is 15 years ago, basically to the week you were on the Alban Vega going around the Americas, and now I guess this is how much does this feel similar versus different? Because you've got a different boat, you've got Starlink.
Oh yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, there's a lot more creature comforts on this boat. Systems, I mean, all sorts of things. Alban Vega was super duper basic. I mean, I didn't even have running water on the Alban Vega. I didn't even have a sink. I had a bucket. So, yeah, and when I'm motoring, I haven't motored much yet because I'm trying to save my fuel for, above Russia and the Northwest Passage, assuming I get that far. But I could take hot showers when, because I got, a hot water tank in there. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a much more comfortable boat. And Starlink is a weird thing, and, because there is an aspect to these kind of long distance, nonstop, single-handed sailing trips where, solitude plays a role and you kind of want the solitude a bit. And obviously this having all this connectivity changes that pretty dramatically. Going around the Americas, I did very little talking to people, for hundreds of days. But whatever, it's the nature of this trip. First off, you really do want information, ice information in particular, when, the best you can. We're trying to promote the nonprofit, so that's, it's important that I can make these little videos and things of that nature, put them out there. And that's weird too. I don't normally make content. I'm not much of a content creator. I have no interest in being a sailing influencer or any of that kind of stuff. But I know the world we're living in at the same time. It's where people go to get information, essentially. So, what can I do to help bring in more funding to the nonprofit? Well, if people don't know you exist, they're not going to donate. So how are they going to find out?
It seems like you're getting, I mean, I'm watching your Instagram posts and stuff, and it seems like you're getting like people are watching them and stuff, and you've got this NPR interview, so like people seem to be paying attention. Are you like, do you feel that way?
I don't
Is
know.
it working?
I don't know the password to Instagram. So I couldn't tell you. I mean, I send the videos off to somebody. They've got all that information and they post it for me. So I have no idea how many people watch them or not watch them. Um, and it's better not to know. I mean, it's the same with my podcast, the Single-Handed Sailing Podcast. I haven't looked at the numbers in at least, I don't know, 2, 3 years. Because why? What does it matter? I'm not selling commercials. If I was selling advertising, then I would want to know so I could use that as leverage for money. But I don't sell advertising. So what does it make any difference if it's one person or 10,000? And I don't know. I'd rather not know how many people are watching whatever it is. I just dump stuff out there. I throw it out into the internet and whatever. But yeah, I mean, look, it's I got an article in Playboy. How was that for weird?
Wait, really?
Yeah, it was
From
it
this
was the
trip?
online. Yeah. The first interview I did was freaking Playboy. I know
Wow.
that's a trip. Yeah, I know it's crazy. But I mean, I'll talk to anybody. I don't care. It was on their website. I don't even know how much they're doing with magazines. Are all struggling and have been, as you know. I mean, you still write for Sale magazine, don't you?
Yeah. I write for them and a couple.
Are they
Here
still
you go.
doing
I found
12?
it. I just Googled Playboy Matt Rutherford, and the first thing
Oh
that
yeah,
came up was he's attempting Mission Impossible, sailing around the Arctic. There you go. I found
right.
it. This is
I know
awesome.
they
Wow.
didn't. You can't see my booty, so don't get too excited. But,
I was going to ask, did they ask you for any photos?
yeah,
Wow. All
yeah,
right. Sick. This is awesome. Wow. So wait,
yeah.
how did like who's do you have somebody that's like reaching out to try to get these interviews to get, to get other people's attention? Like, how did this happen?
Yeah. I've got somebody, Sophie suggested, Ryan and Sophie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and she does some stuff. She does some stuff with. She did more stuff with sailors, I think, originally. Now she's kind of gone a little mainstream. But anyway, she's helping out with some things. So, and yeah, it's an interesting enough story. I guess some people are picking up on it. But I'm just trying to route everything through the nonprofit. The nonprofit's YouTube, nonprofit's Instagram. Wrap it all back around. I mean, we spent a lot of time in the Arctic. It's my 8th time sailing in the Arctic, and usually I'm up here, running research expeditions, and we need to get more funding so we can continue doing research. Essentially, 88% of the polar funding was cut when Elon Musk was running Doge. So there's
Running Doge.
that kind of debacle that happened there, and they cut 55% of all science funding. But within that 55%, they cut 88% of it was polar funding. So they kind of gutted the entire polar science program in the United States. We lost a research vessel called the Palmer. They deactivated. That was our Antarctica research vessel, essentially. So yeah, it's it's a hard time if you're a scientist and doing anything related to climate or anything polar related, regardless of what it is, even if it's studying, I don't know, whales or something. If it's polar related, there's not much money. We don't get government funding in the organization, but still, it affects everybody. And scientists are going to Europe, because they're offering them better funding and job opportunities. So it's a brain drain at some level. It's a lot of this. So a lot of this policies. I don't know if you remember, there was a time. I think it was was it the N1H1 or H, I don't remember what it was. It was a particular visa that was supposed to help sort of like, bring over sort of the best and brightest from other countries through the universities, and then most of them would stick around and go into our various businesses. You want the best and brightest. You
Yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
want the best
Yeah.
scientists. You want the best engineers. We want all of them. If we want the best from whatever, China, India. Because that only makes our economy stronger. That only helps us out. And they've been doing the opposite this whole time. And people have been leaving. We got a bit of a brain drain going on, which is eventually going to, catch up to us, I'd imagine. So anyways, the long and short is there's just not much funding. So whatever I can do to bring in more funding to the nonprofit, I'm going to try to do.
So when are you running for president, Matt?
Well, I don't think I could. I think I had too many felonies on my juvenile record or something, man. But yeah, vote for me. Jesus Christ. I don't think I would, I'd lose my mind. You couldn't sail at least 4 years. You'd be just sitting in a White House with half the country hating you.
Look how much Tom Harkin started sailing after he got out of it.
Yeah, well, he couldn't do much. That is a busy. I would park a boat in the backyard and work on it. I'd have a Cadillac in the front yard on cinder blocks, and I'd have a freaking sailboat in the backyard, half torn apart under a tarp or something. Be out there working on it.
Matt for president. Let's start it right now. Here we go. Matt for president. Yeah. Matt 2028.
Yeah.
So all right, back to reality. It feels like how is everything working? Like you put a lot of effort into the boat. I saw last time you were on the podcast was in Annapolis before you'd left. We came over to the boatyard and checked everything out, and even then, you what was it, 3 weeks before departure, you still hadn't had the engine installed yet. But
right.
I keep saying to people, when you say you're going to do something, you do it. And you left. I think you left a day after you said you were going to leave, which is amazing because nobody ever hits those deadlines. But anyway, how's everything working? Is everything going to plan? What's gone well? What's gone bad? Yeah. What are you worried about?
With boats, it's sometimes you feel like you're lucky if 24 hours goes by and something hasn't broken somewhere. It's and there is that realization or reality or whatever that at any moment anything could happen. Like I could be sitting here right now and in 5 minutes something crazy could break, right? And potentially derail the whole trip or put me in a dangerous situation or whatever it is. But I would say in general, things are going really well. I had essentially a 2,800 mile shakedown cruise from Annapolis up to Asiat, Greenland. And I did find quite a few various problems, mostly smaller things.
Like what? Give me a couple examples.
Let's see here. Well, the biggest initial thing, which I find, same with trip around the Americas or whatever, is you find chafe. So you'll be like, this line needs to be rerouted, that line needs to be rerouted, this block isn't working quite right. And so my furler line almost chafed through completely just trying to get to Lunenburg. So that stuff. And chafe is still a thing. I had to replace my first reef line. I don't know what it was, 10 days ago maybe or something, because it was starting to chafe. Even though I have all new shivs in the boom, I replaced all the shivs. But it's just, I was using it a lot. I was on that first reef quite a bit because there's wind, trying to get up around Iceland or whatever. As you know, it can be quite a windy passage there. So, so that sort of, but it's, going around the Americas was very similar, where I had most of the chafe early on. And then once you get everything sorted out, it starts, things start dying back. I had some issues with the engine, but nothing major. I ran the engine completely empty to see how hard it was to bleed, because there's no bleed screw. It's the weirdest damn thing to me, because it's a modern common rail engine. You're supposed to be self-bleeding. Well, it ain't self-bleeding. Eventually, I figured out you have to unscrew the fuel filter on the engine and top it off with diesel and screw it back on, or else it'll never start. It's just too big of an air gap. Yeah. And I found that out on George's Bank. On a very calm day on George's Bank. It was flat calm. And so that's why I did this. I was like, well, this is a great condition to run out of fuel and just go through the process of what it's like, get it out of the way now instead of figuring it out in the Arctic. So
you deliberately ran out of fuel? Emptied a tank?
Well, I emptied a tank. I've got multiple tanks on the boat, and I got a manifold and stuff. But I wanted to see what the engine sounded like. Well, I was told that because these engines are super smart, modern, computerized engines, that once it senses any kind of drop in fuel pressure, that it cuts off immediately. And therefore, it doesn't really matter, right? It cuts off immediately, and you can just turn the manifold stuff and fire it back up, essentially. but that wasn't the case. And I was actually waiting for it to happen. I was sitting in the cockpit right next to the throttle when I heard just the slightest little decrease in RPM, and I cut the engine right when I heard it. I didn't let it cut itself off, and it was still, 2/3 of the damn fuel filter was empty. And I tried to. It's a stupid thing. It's one thing I don't like about these common rails is the process sucks. You have to like turn the panel on and turn it off. It was like 10 times for 30 seconds each time to let the little manual, the little electric pump go. And then you try it, it doesn't work. And, it was like, it went on for like an hour. And I did that whole repetition multiple times. And then eventually I was like, well, fuck, I need to go do something. So I started, looking for a bleed screw that didn't exist. And then eventually the fuel filter. So, but that's not a problem. That's more like a learning curve than anything else. Let's see here. I haven't had a lot of issues, I guess.
Yeah, knock on wood. That's good.
Right. There's some leaky hatches and things, which sucks. I had the silicone closed a lot of the hatches.
Yeah.
But it's the Arctic. It's not like you're putting a lot of I left the hatch, I can get the hatch open above the galley and the one in the bathroom. And those are the only two hatches that open. I had a hatch break actually in Lunenburg. The forward hatch cracked pretty bad.
Damn.
And yeah, I was we got new sails in Lunenburg. There's that little sailmaker, one of the last places that makes sails by hand,
Yeah.
in the country.
She made the canvas on Ice Bear when we had Ice Bear up there, like the Dodger and the Bimini and stuff. It's a
They
cool
do
place.
a great job.
She does
Yeah,
she
for
did
sure.
this. I think she does the sails for Blue Nose, the big old traditional schooner up there.
I mean, they're great. They're 10.5 ounce. All the sails are 10.5 ounce. So everything is heavy duty. They're not lightweight sails, but whatever. They're great and great in a blow essentially. And this rig is really good at a blow in general. Being a catch rig and all the rest. But
what do you have up right now? Like you're sailing right now as we speak, right? What do you have up now?
Yeah. It's blowing. It's only blowing 20, but it's gusting up. It's it's kind of fluky, gusty stuff. I've got a second reef in the mizzen, a first reef in the main, and probably about a second reef in the jib.
Yeah.
Now I could probably shake that out, start looking at shaking some of that out, maybe shake a little bit of the jib out or something. I'm going about between 5.5 and 6 right now. But I'm also starting to turn, the wind's starting to turn and I've got a wind vane. So
Yeah.
as the wind turns, I turn and it's turning me up into the sea state slowly. So, it's kind of like the sea state is like beating into it a little bit, even though it's on the beam. So I don't want to go charging into this shit. Plus, there's showing up to Russia too early is not going to help me.
Well, I was going to ask, do you have like a target? You I guess you're on some kind of schedule. So do you have like a target boat speed you want to do now, or you're just timing it? You'll just get there and then wait if you have to.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's not as much a target boat speed, but I certainly do have a target dates, right? And therefore you can deduct a boat speed, I certainly do once I get into the Northern Sea Route and the Northwest Passage. Once I get to the other side of this strait, assuming I can get around these islands, there's still some ice in the middle. There's quite a bit of current around Bolshevik Island, the most southern of those three islands. And on the bottom side of the island, like on the bottom side of the channel, it's like 2 knots. It's pretty powerful. And then on the top side, yeah, that's what I said. And on the top side of the island, there's, I don't know what, maybe half a knot or 3/4, but it's sucking ice from that big blob of ice that is on the west side over to the east side through these channels. And it's creating this like ice bridge sort of thing. It's not really a full ice bridge. It's more of just a lot of pack ice. So I need that to get the hell out of my way because I can't get through that. Even on the steel research vessel, I wouldn't want to try. So hopefully, that clears out. But anyways, if it's 1,900 miles, essentially, when I get through that pinch point, till I get out of Russian waters. Until I get to Point Barrow, Alaska, actually. So technically it's like 1,800, but let's round up a little bit. Let's call it 1,900. So at 4.6 knot average, it'll take me 17 days. So that's 4.6 would be a target once I get in there. And same with the Northwest Passage. Northwest Passage is 1,900 miles from Point Barrow to Baffin Bay. So basically, Point Barrow is almost dead center from the first pinch point above Russia to getting out of the Northwest Passage.
So how many
yeah,
miles?
4.6
How many
knots.
miles have you sailed so far?
Well, I don't know.
Not
I'd
not
have to
from
look.
Annapolis, but from like Greenland, from the start.
Flutter's not far. I know it was 2,800 to get to the start line. One of these damn gauges has it. I almost never pay any attention to this stuff because it's hell. What's the point? Where are you? Okay, 4,366 is what I've done so far.
Since Annapolis or since Greenland?
No. Since Greenland, since I left
Damn. Okay.
nonstop, I've
Wow.
done 4,366.
Fuck, man.
Well, I'm above Russia.
That's wild.
I
That's
mean,
long. That's longer than the longest passage I've ever done. I think the longest trip I ever done was 3,300 miles. That was Pacific last year. That's wild. And you're not even. You're like just getting started. Like you've done the easy part so far.
Yeah. I've done the open ocean part for the most part. Coming down Greenland was kind of a bitch because icebergs everywhere. You can't really sleep, and it was also pretty cold still that time of year. It was not much above freezing, and then it warmed up around Iceland, I guess. Svalbard, closer to 50, I would say, or 10 Celsius roughly. And then on the other side of Svalbard, it's dropped back down again, probably the high 30s. I mean, I had some snow. Yeah, that'd be my guess. My stupid outside thermometer broke. So, I mean, I know what it is inside the boat, and it's always a few degrees warmer in the boat than outside.
Yeah.
These Valiant 42s are insulated boats, and I think my body heat alone keeps it a couple of degrees warmer. So I think it's like 40.
Have you been running any heat, or I guess you have the heat like connected to the engine?
Yeah, I only can get heat when the engine's running. I got a car heater. I bought a car heater, which I don't know why you never see sailboats with this. You think it would come from the factory that way.
Well, Micah, you remember Micah from Annapolis. He had set his boat up like that a long time ago when he had this Allberg 35, and I remember him saying the same thing. He's like, "This is stupid. Why doesn't everybody do this? It's like free heat."
He might have been the one that inspired me to do it. I don't remember. I remember him doing that. I remember that boat, and I remember him showing me that.
Yeah.
Because I did the same thing on the first research vessel.
Okay.
So anytime we're motoring, I can heat we had a pilot house on that, and we could get that boat up into the mid 60s, if you're motoring long enough, and up in the Arctic, up in Greenland. So, I don't know. It doesn't. It costs like $180 to buy this thing. It's not that for a boat. It's not that expensive.
Yeah,
you
right.
run a couple of hoses, and the duct work can be a bitch. So in this case, I just left the ducts loose, and they're in like a little cubby thing, and I just pull them out and put them wherever I want. They're probably about 20 feet long each, so which is good. Like if I want to take a shower, I want to dry out the head afterwards. I put them in the head, and it dries it out. Or sometimes I put it in there before I shower to warm it up before I have to get naked in there.
Listen to you, man. You're getting so soft. You're talking about shower now. You didn't have any of that shit on the Vega. What the hell?
Showers, man. Well, I got a whole shower room on the research vessel with a sauna in it. So, but
hell yeah,
I could also run them up into my little enclosure. So, when you're in around ice, you kind of live in that enclosure. You're not hanging out inside much. You come in here and make food and shit like that. But I sleep in there. I'm always there, or most of the time I'm there. So, and that was the first week of that trip coming down Greenland. I was like living under the enclosure, and it's just a small little thing. It's just big enough for one person.
Yeah.
And I can't lay down 100% flat. Like I got to bend my knees a little. It's not quite long enough for, if I was about 5'8", it'd probably be long enough. Luckily I'm not 6'4". That would really suck. But yeah, so I can warm it at least when I'm motoring. So I've got a shit ton of extra fuel. And so I should be able to motor, I don't know, hopefully a few thousand miles with what I have at this point.
What's your routine like? Like, and I guess, you don't have the ice routine in place yet, I guess, but like, what's a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, it varies. The ice routine is definitely different. Right now, because open ocean single-handed sailing is pretty relaxing for the most part. I don't know if people really realize that. But yeah, it's if your boat's not falling apart, right? Because if your boat's falling apart, then it's super stressful, obviously. But if your boat is, this boat's been doing really good because we replaced everything. And I've done it a lot of times in the past, so we didn't make too many mistakes, at least as far as I can tell at this point. So, anyways, tonight, let's just say, there is no night because you get 24-hour daylight, but I'll go to bed at some point later, wake up in the morning after waking up a bunch of times in the night. You never just sleep for 8 hours. So I'll wake up here. I haven't been setting an alarm clock for probably since Svalbard, and even that before that, for at least a week between Iceland and Svalbard, I didn't either. But usually I will. On that, that's because there's so little traffic up here. There's like I'm in the middle of nowhere. Like there's very little shipping. There's no ice. There's nothing to run into up here. So and I got a good AIS. The AIS has been working great. And I've got proximity alarms and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways, you wake up periodically. You check in the chart plotter to make sure the wind didn't do something weird. Because you're with a wind vane. If the wind changes direction, you change direction. You might have to go outside and make adjustments to the wind vane, although I've got it dialed in pretty good at this point. I was screwing up earlier. I guess I just didn't remember well, because I had a monitor wind vane on the 323 Pearson, and I sailed alone across the Atlantic twice, and the Alban Vega. But the Alban Vega has a tiller. So the way you connect the lines is real basic. It makes it real easy. Where on the wheel, you got this wheel pilot, this wheel control cylinder thing. And I was trying to do sheet bends to tie the lines together, and it kept slipping. And eventually I got like a little clip, and I got bowling in a clip, and I sewed the knots. Like I sewed them all over the place so they couldn't slip. And then I haven't had really many issues since. But anyways, yeah, I mean, what you get up in the morning, whatever that is, right? And whenever you decide I'm done trying to sleep, and make some coffee. I eat some oatmeal. I put way too much maple syrup or brown sugar in it. And then if I have, I usually turn the internet on at that point. Starlink does take a lot of power. The Marine dish takes a lot of power. It takes about 200 watts.
Damn.
So it takes a lot. So, and it's just a steady draw. So I'll flip that on. Takes 15 minutes or so to warm up and actually start working. Check, whatever, check emails, check ice information, check the weather, get a weather forecast. And usually, I get a weather forecast every 12 hours. So I usually check that. Sometimes I'll skip it, but I almost always, most of the time I check it every 12 hours. So, do all that kind of stuff. Some days you're doing a lot of it. Yesterday I did a podcast. I made a video, my podcast. I made a video for YouTube showing like the route and where I was at. I don't know if you got to see that, but I gave a lot more information about, I had a lot of like maps in there with routes and ice, like ice maps, trying to show people what's going on with that.
Cool. Yeah. I'm looking that up now as we speak. Cool.
Yeah. It was week 6, blown in the Arctic Ocean, week 6 or something like that.
Yeah. Here you go. I got it. Yeah. Alone in the Arctic Ocean, week 6. Cool.
But, after you go through that whole process of coffee and yada, yada, then, I might read for a while. I might, yeah, it depends. I might clean, You always got something you can clean. With a sailboat, you're never bored because you always got something to clean or something to fix. Usually both, I mean, there's a million little things I could be doing around this boat, as far as maintenance goes. Nothing major right now, but there's always something somewhere that needs a little love.
Are you reading? Like books, and do you just read leisurely? What are you reading right now?
You want a lot of different forms of entertainment if you're going to be single-handed in the open ocean for a while, because like I said, open ocean single-handed sailing has a lot of downtime. That's something that people might not expect, but you do get a decent amount of downtime. What is this thing called? What does it say? The Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect.
Damn, deep.
Sounds, yeah, it's not. It's about AI taking over the world. It's a fictional story.
Okay.
So So I've been kind of chewing away on that. And I've got a few other books. I switch it up though. I'll read a bit. You remember, Laz put some movies and TV shows on an iPad for me. So I got an iPad for backup really with charts on it and all that kind of stuff. But he dumped some right before I left. So I've been trying to watch, but there's episodes missing. I was trying to watch this thing called Foundation or so. Yeah. So I get there and it'll be like episode 6 won't even be there. And I'll be like, God damn it. So yeah,
Oh, that
yeah, or
sucks.
the
Yeah, but
season
you've
finale.
got Starlink now. Why aren't you just like streaming all that shit?
I don't know. I mean, I guess you can watch Netflix. I have actually watched a couple of like bad horror movies on Netflix at different points in this trip when I had the power, which is a trip. Just be out
Yeah.
here doing that. But I don't do that too often. But I do. Um, I do watch movies once in a while. Like last night, I watched Night of the Seven Kingdoms or Six Kingdoms or whatever it is. There's some Game of Thrones spinoff they did
Okay.
recently. Anyways, it was just what was on the iPad. So anyway, switch it up. Sometimes you read, sometimes I watch a little something. Um, I have a Nintendo Switch 2, which
Oh,
I,
dude, you got to hook that up. We'll play some Mario Kart. I have one of them too. You got to
oh yeah,
hook that up to Starlink. We'll play some offshore Mario Kart.
I've never had the original Switch. I haven't had a Game Boy when I was a kid. When I went
Yeah.
around the Americas, I had like I think they call it like a PSP Vista or something.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was like Sony's little one, and I had only a couple of games on it. One was this Japanese game that took forever, which is good. It was like a game you could dump like 100 hours into, and the other one was football. It was Madden, and that's mostly what I was playing was Madden, and the buttons started to fail because I don't know the salty air or what. So when you're kite the ball back, like you have less and less options for who you could throw the ball to until only like two or three buttons work, and there's just one guy you could throw the ball to, and that's it. And eventually, you stop playing. But I tried to get into I haven't been able to really get into the Switch, although it's got Cyberpunk 2077 on it, and that's like an open world game that takes forever. Um, but I dabble with it a bit. I'll just sell it when I get back. I just got it. Basically, you just want to have lots of different forms of entertainment. So primarily I'm reading books and stuff like that, but I do other things. Switch it up. Um, and yeah, then I didn't have that shit going around the Americas either for the most part, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I had some DVDs, but I didn't have a lot of power to run a
Physical
laptop.
media,
So
baby. Do you are you like drinking any alcohol out there when you're by yourself?
yeah, yeah, of course.
What's your preference?
Everything. I mean, I don't know.
What did you Yeah, but what do you I mean
Whatever
you
I
only
got.
I was going to say you only packed what you have. So what did you pack?
Yeah, no, I don't have a ton of alcohol at this point. And when you get up into ice and stuff, you don't really, you're not drinking anything. Open ocean stuff is easier. Last night I had a little drink. Um, I had some leftover booze from last year's Arctic expedition that we didn't drink. Some vodka, some rum, stuff like that. I've got some Lagavulin. I've got some other
Nice.
really good, yeah, got some other really good whiskey. I've got some tequila. But and
Tequila doesn't strike me as an Arctic beverage. That's like Lagavulin, yeah, that's like cold weather, hell yeah. But tequila, that doesn't feel like that feels out of place.
well, it's the reposado, so it's got that smokiness to it. It's Herdengura, something like that. Reposado. It's good. It's really, really good. Um, so yeah, I've got but what it normally like with the vodka, like I've got this little plug-in thermos. It's kind of like a little kettle, but it's like a size of a water bottle, and you plug it in, and it heats liquid. And if you pour honey in there and lemon juice and vodka, and then fill the rest with water and heat it up, it's like a hot honey, sweet honey vodka sort of thing.
Sounds pretty
Um,
damn good, actually.
it is. It's a yeah, yeah. Some guy named Manu, a single hander, taught me this little recipe up in the Arctic in 2015. But we always call it the Manu Special. It's I'm guessing it's a French drink because he was French. I don't know, but yeah, no, there's not many warm alcohol drinks, right? So that's one of them you can do, and you can put rum in there instead of vodka if you want. I also have freeze-dried apples, so sometimes I'll break freeze-dried apples up and throw it in with the rum and the honey and the water and heat it all up together.
Damn, that sounds
That's
really
kinda
good.
nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might have to
I
try
don't know,
that
it's
this week on Anchor. I'm doing a trip on Spica just out here in the archipelago, so it's just day sailing, and so I've got crew coming on Sunday, and the last time we did this, it's basically like there's a bunch of saunas out in the archipelago that anybody can just use. They're like maintained by this place called Stiftelsen. It's like they maintain the islands in the archipelago that are publicly owned. and you just show up at this sauna and they've got like wood all split there for you. You fire it up and you just hang out at the sauna, and it's freaking so cool. Take your beer in there. It's really good.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
Sail from sauna to sauna.
No, that sounds very Scandinavian.
It is very Scandinavian. Very Scandinavian.
Yeah, wow, that would be great. Yeah, fuck, I could use the sauna probably right about. You wouldn't want to smell me if you wouldn't want to be in the sauna when I walk in.
You just told me you got a heated shower now, man. Why aren't you showering?
Yeah, but I haven't been running my engine because of saving my fuel. So I barely ever run my engine because I need as much. Once I actually get moving, I'll be able to start doing that. But yeah, I mean, when it's cold, it's not that big of a deal,
No,
but you change your underwear and your socks. That's about it. That's
it.
about the only thing that gets changed around here. Well, I change my hoodie once a week. But yeah, I'm pretty rough. But I'll do laundry. I got a bucket, so when I start making water and I'm at a point where there's not too much ice around, I'll do some laundry. I'll dry it in a little engine room or something. So, but yeah, I'll be underwear and socks. But I don't know what's going to happen, man. I mean, the ice is really bad. I tell you, it's the worst ice above Alaska in 20 years, well, at least since 2003.
Wow.
So it's a little over 20 years. Yeah, it's horrific up there. It's a weird thing, man. We have the lowest ice, one of the lowest ice on record, but a lot of that is over in the sort of above Svalbard, Franz Josef land, or directly above Norway, however you want to look at it. But the ice above Russia is abnormally weird. Like I'm saying, this first pinch point, normally there's not this big block of ice. That's highly, highly abnormal. And the Chukchi Sea has the highest ice since 1994, which is right next to Alaska, essentially. So that whole area, basically eastern Siberia and Alaska, that whole area has just got crazy amounts of ice. So there's a chance that nobody gets out of the Northwest Passage or nobody gets in. There's probably a dozen boats in there right now that came from the east side. The east side is experiencing really good melt for sailboats. Bad for the polar bears, obviously, but it's great for but it's somewhat normal too. I mean, the ice breaks up.
Yeah.
But
well, it's still, I mean, it's a little early still, isn't it? Don't you usually do that in September?
No, I mean, I would like to enter the Northwest Passage around August 1st, but the center is generally not open until
September 1st. You mean, or are you saying August 1st?
August 1st.
If you're going the other way,
1st.
Yeah, okay.
If I'm coming in from the east, because I usually come in. This is the first time I've ever come in from the west.
Yeah.
So, but you're getting. It basically starts freezing back over October 1st. So you kind of want to be in the Northwest Passage at some point, like mid-August. Generally speaking, is when the center opens. I'd say between the 15th and the 21st is when sort of the part where Franklin was crushed, sort of like that's sort of the center of it. He picked a bad place. But yeah, he could have went around where Amundsen went. It would have been fine. He just picked the wrong side of an island, and see if he went left instead of right, he probably would have made it through, the next year. But anyways, fate, of course, how'd you know? There's a bunch of boats there, though, that might find that the exit is closed. And I don't think anybody is going to make it through the direction I'm going unless they're willing to do what I'm doing, which is nonstop. If you want to go in the Northwest Passage, actually see some like landmarks, which makes total sense, then you're not going to want to go in there in September because then you run out of time. If I don't get past Point Barrow by the 10th of September, I've got to bail because I'm going to run out of time to get through the passage before it freezes. And if it freezes, then what?
Well, I was going to ask you that. Like, do you have like bailout point? Do you have certain points along the way where you can bail? And I mean, there must be a point where you can't bail, right? Like, are there any places where you could legit get stuck?
Well, there's only two places you can bail. So, which is basically where I'm at now, give or take 500 miles. But essentially, before I drop down those islands, if I'm not through that first pinch point by really the 20th, 21st, let's call it the 21st, then I have to turn around and go back to either Greenland or Annapolis or whatever. We'll see. Am I going to try to do this again next year? If so, maybe it'd make sense to go back to Greenland and hold the boat out in Asiat because then it's at the start line. Or am I not? Then I just bring the boat back to Annapolis.
Do you
But
have like a checklist or a set of criteria where you're like, if I don't meet these criteria, I'm bailing, or is it entirely going to be like the vibe when you get there?
no, it's the yeah, and it's just time. It's time capitulation, right? It's not. It's 100%. You run out of time. You run out of time.
Yeah.
So like it's like I don't know. They say that with climbing Mount Everest. Like there's a certain amount of time you got to get up to the top and back down from the fourth base camp.
Yeah, well, that's
And
what
even if you
that's in the back of my head. That was like the comparison. It's like, and some people push that, and they're the ones that fuck themselves
yeah,
up.
they're the ones that get fucked. So lose their fingers, toes, or die on the mountain. So no, I mean you got to set solid dates where it's like, look, if this ain't open by this time, I am out of time. And if I'm out of time, I'm out of time, and whatever. I don't control the ice, and I don't control the weather, right? So now the weather usually I can deal with one way or another. Ice, you can't, right? First off, this is a fiberglass boat. Second off, the Titanic was made of steel. It didn't help the Titanic. So it's just ice. Pack ice is a totally different animal than icebergs. And, it will crush you, kill you, shipwreck you. It do all sorts of terrible things. It goes on for hundreds of miles, millions and millions of pounds of pack ice. You just can't, there's no way you can fight it. So, yeah, I've got roughly, like I said, the first pinch point, 21st is the absolute deadline. If I can't get there by the 21st, through it, really, if I can't get through it by the 21st, then I got to turn around and go back. There is a chance I go through it in the second pinch point over by Wrangel Island on the eastern side. That's also, you can't get in there right now. It's full of ice, or out or whatever. There's a chance that that doesn't open. I got to turn around and go all the way back through the Northern Sea Route the way I came and then go back.
Well, I
And
was
that
going to
would
say,
suck.
like, at some point like, isn't there a risk that at some point you can't go forward or backwards if you get through the first pinch point and then something happens and the ice closes in or whatever, like, or do you see that as
Yeah.
less of a risk?
I mean, theoretically, less of a risk, but yes, theoretically, um, both sides could shut on you, but it's less of a risk because I'm entering it at the very beginning of the sort of the melt season, right?
Yeah.
So the chances are that um, it's only going to open up more as you get into like the peak melt is really the first to second week of September. So if I can get in the front door, so to speak, by mid-August, well, even if the back door never opens, I can still come back out. It's just going to open up more on the side I came in.
I see.
So,
Okay.
and then the second bailout is the Bering Sea.
Yeah.
So if I can't get past Point Barrow by the 10th of September, and I really would like to be going past it by the 5th or something like that, then I'm out of time. And I don't know where you bail exactly. I mean, you got options, obviously. You go south. You can either keep the boat in southern Alaska. I could try to bring it, I don't know, down to the Panama Canal and have a really weird circumnavigation, and but it would be a while, then you got to beat into those easterlies in the freaking Caribbean, to get from Panama back to whatever, the Bahamas and America and all that kind of stuff. Um, so I don't know. We just take it, one day at a time. But like I said, it's the worst ice in 20 years above Alaska right now. Like there is no route, like dramatically worse than usual. So now they had 80 degrees in the Arctic Plain in Alaska like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't mean it's all just going to melt. So that's controlled a lot by wind direction.
Yeah.
So when you get like northerly winds, you get a lot of northerly winds that bring cold air, and the southerly winds bring warm air. And usually in the summertime, the winds switch to a more dominant southerly direction, and then it just brings that warm air up, helps melt the ice. But for whatever reason, the wind direction has stayed northerly for the most part, and that's why we have all this ice. Is because there's just been this trend of cold northerly wind, as opposed to the southerly, and it's just hasn't been, it's been cold. It's been cold up there.
That's where, I mean,
So,
it's weird that we have the same thing here in Sweden. It's been a relatively cold summer, particularly like all the news is the heat waves in Europe and stuff in Southern Europe. But up here, I mean, it's much colder than it was last year. It hasn't gotten into the 70s at all, hardly out in the archipelago anyway. Inland, it's a little warmer, but like where we've been sailing, it's been a lot of northerly wind and the water's colder than usual and it's been chillier. So that's interesting.
yeah, they think it might have something to do with the El Nino, but
Mm.
I don't know. The El Nino is still developing. The El Nino has a bigger effect in the fall and in the winter than in the summer. But I have heard some of that because I know that Scandinavia was a bit colder uh, than usual, and then that first pinch point above Russia has way more ice than it usually does. Um, so yeah, it's United States also has all that crazy amount of heat waves and so on. But yeah, it's a weird one, man. It's a weird one. We're getting record breaking heat in lots of places. Record lows or near record lows of ice, but other places it's worse than it's been in a long, long time. So
Are
it's
you stressed out about any of this?
I mean, stress ain't gonna help nothing really. So I'm look, ice is extremely dangerous. Sea ice is. You don't want to go charging into it in any kind of weather. You have to accept the fact. It's like the guy who turns around on Mount Everest within sight of the top. You got to accept the fact that, dude, if you can't do it, you can't do it. Like for instance, if I got to drop anchor, I'm trying to do it nonstop. I don't even have my anchor is sitting right next to me. I can almost touch my anchor sitting here. It's on top of the boxes. I moved all that. The chain got all the weight off the front of the boat. But I should probably put it back when I get in the Northern Sea Route, just in case. I don't
Yeah.
want to drop anchor. But if I do, I do it. And if I do, it's not a nonstop trip. I'm not
I
going to
was
be one
going to
of those
say
people.
we all know that if you drop your anchor in your mind,
Yeah,
it's no
dude.
longer
Yeah.
nonstop.
Of course it's not. Like, it's the stupidest thing ever. But people drop anchor and say it's nonstop. Well, whatever. I didn't go to land, man. What the fuck does that matter? But anyways, if I have to, because I gotta hide from, either ice or I don't know, some like completely insane storm that where I'm near ice, where I just don't have another option. Like safety has to be first, even though there's obviously a lot of risk involved in the situation in general. You got to come at it. So I don't know what's gonna happen. And I've been saying that since the very beginning. I mean, if the ice opens up and I can slip through these pinch points, then I will. And if I can do it in the amount of time and with the right weather conditions, right? Because you also need the right weather conditions. Like above Alaska, I can't have northerlies because if there is an ice-free lane, it's going to be like 15 to 30 miles or something. It's not going to be very big. And you get northerlies, it's going to blow the ice down and potentially shipwreck you on the coast, and it shoals out there, man. The shoal's way out north of Alaska. So you'll run aground way before you get anywhere near it. But so you got to time it. It's just ice, wind. Hopefully, I get southerlies. I hope it's blowing 30 knots out of the south.
Does that push
I'll
everything
sail
north too,
along.
eh?
Yeah, I got limited fetch from that direction, and I'll put some reef points in and just fucking go and let the ice get shoved up north. That'd be great. So, so there's, but look, who knows? I don't know what's going to happen, and if it presents itself, then I'm ready to do it. Right? If the ice gets out of my damn way, or I can find a way through it, or whatever under the right conditions, I got a shit ton of fuel right here. I got 365 gallons. Like I can motor for 3,000 miles basically. So let's go.
But I
But
mean, that uncertainty is like the whole point for you, right? Like you probably wouldn't do it if you knew it was possible. Isn't that literally the point of why you do what you do, stuff like this?
I mean, look, I would much rather it be a year where these pinch points are opening up beautifully, and I'm just like, oh well, whatever. I got plenty of room here. I mean, I'd rather not be the worst ice above Alaska in 20 years. I'd rather not have that additional difficulty. It's already hard enough up here. But in general, yeah, I mean, you don't know. Exploration is supposed to be that way. You're not supposed to know what's going to happen. You're not
Yeah,
supposed to know
that's my
what you got to.
point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. And when you're doing stuff that hasn't been done before, there's not really, especially above Russia, there's just not really anybody you can call and talk to. There's not much information. There's a boat that went through in 2010, but a lot of things have changed since 2010. There's a section on the Northeast Passage, or whatever, Northern Sea Route is what the Russians call it. I got in my book, my Arctic book, the Imre one. It was Greenland. They expanded it to North. I got a bunch of pictures in there, actually. All the Northwest Greenland pictures are my first research vessel.
Oh, wow,
There's a
cool.
picture of me in a rowboat going into Connacht and that thing. But, there's just, I don't know. There's limited information, but at the same time, there's only so much you need to know anyways. There's a lot of shoaling up there, so you need to have charts, study your charts, understand that. But it mostly just comes down to ice, and storms. But the storms are only as relevant as the ice unless they're like terrible, unless it's like a 70 knot blow or something. If it's just a gale, 35 knots or something like that, you can heave two in that shit or
Yeah.
whatever. You can't heave two if you're 10 miles from the ice, 5 miles from the ice. You're going to be right on top of that ice pretty quick. So, so yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see. I have no idea what's going to happen at this point.
I think what probably, I mean, I might just be making this up, but my assumption is that people think, you've done all this like, you know, quote unquote crazy stuff, but you're also like one of the safest, like risk, even though you like taking risks, you do it in a very calculated way. I remember when you were going to skippered Eastbjorn for us from Key West up to Bermuda that one year. And I'm like showing you around, showing you where all the gear is. I'm like, yeah, all the spinnaker stuff's in this locker. And you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to use that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So, I think you're like, I think that might be a misperception that people think you're this crazy adventurer guy, but you're very calculated. And I think that's cool that you talk about how you talk about safety and all this stuff, even though what people think you're doing is nuts.
Yeah, it's a combination. I mean, that's how you succeed doing crazy stuff, right? I mean, you gotta be conservative in your day to day, even though the overall plan is not conservative. It's kind of crazy. So, but stay in the middle, man. That's the I'm used to uncharted waters at some level, and a decent amount of this is either poorly charted or some of it's uncharted. This northern sea route. But I mean, I'm in fjords in Greenland all the time that are uncharted, so that's just kind of like we map uncharted fjords. I mean, we've done like 10 of them at this point. So it's not. I'm kind of used to sailing that way, and but stay in the middle, man. Try to keep as much distance from land and the ice. If you got land here and ice here, and it's 30 miles apart, go right down the middle. And if you got two islands and you don't understand the depths necessarily, go in the middle. Generally speaking, if you stay the maximum distance that you can from land or ice or whatever, usually it's deep enough. Not always, but usually it is. So,
Have you allowed yourself to like reflect at all and just enjoy the fact that you're back to sea by yourself? Like I know how much you enjoy the solo stuff, and it's been 15 years. So like, have you taken the time to be like, yeah, this is fucking awesome. I'm right where I want to be.
yeah, particularly earlier on, I would say. Um, Probably between Iceland and Svalbard. Once things calmed down a bit, once I got around Iceland, things started calming down a bit. And I was able to rest more and kind of relax more and all that. But yeah, no, it's nice to be, back in the ocean. Like I said, open ocean single-handed sailing is pretty. I don't want to call it easy, but I mean, compared to this other stuff, it is. Compared to the ice stuff and all the rest. Um, so yeah, it is really nice. It is, it's definitely different than running a research vessel with 6, 7, 8 crew. Um, but yeah, I'm appreciating it while I got it, and having the downtime and being able to read a book or watch a show or whatever it is, and get a good sleep and just sort of have a relaxing day and all that is much appreciated. So
Yeah. And you said you're like what, a day away from entering Russian waters, and then you're gonna have to start paying more attention, or how's that gonna work? Have you
yeah,
had any contact with Russia since they issued the permits?
oh yeah.
Okay.
I talked to the one guy almost every day.
Are they
Um,
generally friendly and like helpful?
oh yeah, super friendly, super helpful.
See, you're
So
gonna be running for president, man. International diplomacy right here. You're flying the flag. You're bringing the two countries together.
well, yeah, I think they probably need a little bit of a administrative change. We probably need a little administrative change too, by the way. I mean, so whatever, but yeah, no, I mean, these guys have been great, super nice, but it's abnormal for them also. There's multiple boats. There's 4 boats that have a permit this year,
Wow.
and all of them are single-handed.
Shit.
It's kind of crazy. I feel for those guys up in the Northern Sea Route, in the Northern Sea Route Association. That's they've got to be kind of like, oh shit, too, because this is an abnormal ice year. Normally these things are more open than they are. It's a bad ice year up here, essentially in Russia. For shipping traffic and so on. And it's I hope everybody understands that the chances of getting diesel in these handful of small towns is going to be extremely minimal because there's a lot of, refineries have been hit and they've had fuel shortages. And it's going to affect small town Siberia, so
Sure.
you better bring a lot of damn fuel, so
do you know where these, like, are they at sea as well now? Are you guys in
yeah,
any, are you,
Tamara's one of them. I met her in 2023. She's worth checking out for sure. Um, in 2023, I saw this little metal boat. I think it's 35. Well, little. It looked smaller than it was, actually. I thought it was like 28. It ended up being 35. She, I invited her on board, and she started talking about wanting to spend the winter locked in the ice in Greenland,
what's her name?
alone. Tamara Click.
Oh yeah, here we
Klink?
go. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And she spent a winter alone in the ice.
Shit,
And
dude,
just
she's
go
got
day.
750,000 followers on the Instagram. God
I'm sure.
damn. Jesus. Yeah, what does it say
I'm
here?
not
Solo
surprised.
sailing in the Arctic.
Yeah, so she's badass. She's a Brazilian girl. Her dad is like runs some big boat in Antarctica or something like that.
Okay.
Something along those lines. But anyways, she got her 750,000 fans. She deserves every one of them.
Yeah.
She spent the winter alone, trapped in the ice. That's a hell of a thing to do, regardless. And as far as I could tell, she pulled it off. We tried to tell her gave her information. She might have stayed in one of the spots where we were telling her, for good ice holes, essentially. So we were telling her places in Disco. But anyways, I met her back then. She sailed through the Northwest Passage last year, but she's probing. I just looked at her tracker on her website a couple hours ago. I don't know what she's doing right now because she's probing the edge of the ice pack over by Wrangel Island, like East Siberia. There is no way in hell you're going to get through that ice right now.
So she's coming.
No way.
She's coming the other direction.
Yeah, she was coming the other direction, and I was like, "What are you doing, Tamara?" Like I was looking at it literally an hour before we talked because it's like 9-10 ice. It's the red stuff on the ice chart. It's like you're not get. There's no way you can get through that. But she sailed over and started probing it. She's still probing it as we speak, as far as I could tell. So there's no way in hell she's got to go back to Alaska, and she's gonna have to wait another week or two. But she's a serious sailor, and she deserves all the props, and and she knows what she's doing with the ice. And I'm sure she's realizing that she's gonna have to wait another week or two.
Yeah, I'm looking at her tracker right now. She's like going 3 knots due north, sort of right smack in the middle, right due north of the Bering Sea. The Bering Strait.
What you can't see what you can't see is just to the left of where a boat is a giant bunch of massive, horrible pack ice.
Yeah.
It's you need an icebreaker to get through there right now. It's not even remotely possible. So I don't know what she's doing over there, but she's probably got antsy in Nome is what I'm guessing. I think she was in Nome for a little bit, and more power to her. Like if the weather is good, it doesn't hurt to go over there and probe at it.
Yeah.
It's not none hurt anything. Go for it. And there's a place over by Point Hope where I think you can. She has a centerboard, so I think you can get in there if you got shallow draft and it's nice like lagoon. So my guess is you'll probably head over to Point Hope and hang out there for a week or two, and then give it another shot. But there's no way to get through. Ella is trying to do it this year. She made it through the Northwest Passage last year. She wants to be the first person to sail around single-handed. We'll see what happens with that because Tamara technically could also. Tamara gets through there before she does and gets back to her start line. But Tamara says she doesn't want to screw up Ella's thing and she doesn't really care about the record. So maybe she would stop short just because her and Ella were kind of like buddy boats last year in the Northwest Passage. So they know each other. And but it doesn't sound like they're doing buddy boat thing this year. And then Harry Anderson's coming through the direction I'm coming through. He's 76 years old and single-handed. And I hope when I'm 76 I can freaking sail alone through Russia. I have a hard time doing it right now, so he's got an Allures 40 or something,
Cool.
Centerboard also, which can be helpful in some of these shallow areas.
Is he near you now? Are you ahead of him, behind him? Where's he at relative to you?
He's in Norway right now. He's not doing it non. I'm the only one trying to do it nonstop.
Okay.
Because I love, I like the nonstop stuff because it changes your mentality. You land becomes your adversary and the ocean becomes your friend. So you don't want anything to do with land. But no, he stopped. So he's in Norway, hanging out somewhere near Hammersfed, Hammer something. I talked to him actually today for a little bit, and he's waiting because he got that first pinch point. I got to sail over the top of it. The normal way is completely full of ice, and he's hoping that normal way through opens,
Yeah.
and it probably will eventually. It just might not be till September. So he was talking about doing a circumnavigation of the Arctic, but now he's talking that maybe after Russia, he's just going to head south. I think he's from the west coast of the United States somewhere. So he said, but maybe just going back, and he's like, I'll probably be just done sailing in the Arctic. His claim to fame was that he sailed to all 7 continents on his boat single handed. So
Cool.
yeah, but the Arctic, he was saying, enough of it was trade wind stuff downwind, and he was like, man, he got his ass kicked. He had to stop in Iceland because his autopilot was failing. He doesn't have a wind vane, and he got it fixed, but he got some bad weather from Iceland over. He got hit by something by Norway, some gales and headwinds and 35 knot headwinds, or I don't know, some stuff. And he was like, man, this is a tough sailing up here. I got a little used to those trade winds, down south where it's a whole lot easier. But yeah, he went to Antarctica, so obviously, he can deal with the cold. The Antarctic Peninsula, south of Cape Horn.
Yep.
So and he's a super nice guy. So I wish everybody success. I don't know what's going to happen with that being that it's a bad ice year. All I can hope, because I talked to Harry quite a bit, so we're in touch. Harry's bringing enough fuel to try to do the whole thing nonstop. And he's gonna, he's gonna hold out where he's at and see if it opens up. I certainly hope Tamara and Ella have a shit ton of fuel on their boats because they're gonna need it. There's almost nowhere to stop, even if there was fuel. There's only a few towns, and it's bureaucratic nightmare trying to get in and out of them. So so yeah, my guess, if everything goes well, is that Harry is not going to make it through the Northwest Passage because by the time that southern uh, hinge point opens up, it's going to be too late in the season. But it will open up eventually, and he'll probably get through in September or something like that. Late August, start late August, get out in late September. The other side, Ella and Tamara are not going to be able to get past Wrangel Island or that ice for at least another week, if not another 2 weeks. My guess is by the time I show up there, which would be at least a couple of weeks from now, it maybe will be opening at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be lucky. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm getting close to it and I'm like, God damn it. Now I got to heave to for a week in a laptop sea somewhere away from, find a place away from ice and land where I can just chill and let it open up. And then maybe that screws me up at Point Barrow. Maybe I can't get there soon. Maybe I got to bail because of it. And if that happens, that happens. I'm not whatever. I mean,
have you thought about what you think your chances of completing this year are? Like, where do you put yourself? 20%, 80%, 50? Where do you 50-50?
Well, no. I mean, I was saying 75% when I left because we had this spring ice melt was at literally the lowest in history.
Yeah,
and we're not the lowest anymore. I think we're like the 8th lowest in history or something. It's all near the bottom of the graph, though. It's all dramatically lower than 20 years ago. But nevertheless, I think, I wouldn't put it at 75 now, probably closer to 65 or something at this point. And that's because the ice above Alaska is so bad and mostly, but, I don't know. I mean, ice is bad everywhere. All the pinch points are all jumbled and fucked up right now. So, and as time goes on, like every day that passes, that number gets lower, right? Because I'm running out of time. So every day or every week where these things are not opening up, you can knock another 5 or 10 or 15% off that. But I still feel like it's a better chance that it's going to happen than not. It's going to be challenging getting through this first pinch point. there is a decent amount of pack ice in the middle of it, and I need to get out of my way. I can't do it right now, but I got like a week before I get there, right? So hopefully by the time I get there, that's cleared out. Um, and then yeah, who knows with this Wrangel Island stuff? Like I said, the Chuck GC is the worst since 1994,
Yeah,
and that's
damn.
part of the problem. Yeah, and so it's like, well, and so yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do think that by September, peak ice melt above Alaska is like September 7th to 14th.
Yeah.
And I'll be there right there at that window. That's when I arrive. So if it does open, if it can be done, I'll be perfectly positioned to do it.
Yeah.
Right? If it can't be done, then it can't be done. Then whatever, I mean, then I got to figure it goes south and deal with the Bering Sea, I guess. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but do something. But,
What's your deal with? So Mia and I were talking about this at lunch today too, because Adam, it's Adam's boat, and you guys have the
Right.
deal where he's letting you use the boat. Like, what is he just like? Yeah, whatever you need to do. I mean, obviously, he has to be. What's the relationship like with him?
No, Adam is great.
Like, what if you end up in Alaska and it's just like, all right, man, here's your boat. It's in Alaska.
Well, I'm not gonna just do that,
No, I know, but what is the arrangement?
For getting it somewhere.
Yeah,
I need to get it. Well, I mean, it's a bit loose in that regard. I mean, he did mention the fact that if something were to carry on over in the next year, he's fine with it. In other words, if whatever that might be, if I do got to go to Alaska and put it on a hard and try to either bring it back a more southern way or through the Northwest Passage, or I don't know, we'll just see what that looks like. Or maybe I sail it down to the Panama Canal and just bring it back that way.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. He's not stressed out about it one way or the other because he's not going to be retired for several years before he can start sailing on it. So he's kind of fine either way as far as that goes. I think it would be a big inconvenience for probably both of us in a way, right? Because I'm sure he'd like to have his boat on one hand.
Yeah.
And,
and you'd like to also not finish in Alaska too.
Yeah, and I don't want to deal with that shit because then it's like, now what,
Yeah.
So,
it's pretty cool though. We were saying it's pretty cool that like, it's one thing to be like a fan and donate to the Ocean Research Project or whatever, but like the fact that he has a big, and Adam, I've said this before on the podcast, but he was a crew member with us on 59 North a few times, and I just think it's got to be cool for him that he's got such a big part in like helping you with this. He's not just donating money. He's like, yeah, man, let's do this together, and he's gonna have that. Whether you make it or not, he's always gonna be able to say, hey, man, Matt took my boat and did this thing with it. That's really neat.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'd say, he's a man of his word, and I'd say that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of people say a lot of things, but not people don't often stick to it. So, and he's stuck to, what he said to me right off the bat, because he's the one who approached me about using, getting a boat and using his boat. And yeah, and he hasn't wavered from it one bit the whole time. So, look, I want to survive this one way or the other. I want to keep going back to the Arctic. Ideally, next year, have a research expedition, as we normally do. So, it's one way or another, either the ice opens up or it doesn't, right? The boat is in great shape. Everything is running well, for all the things that matter outside of little tiny things, a leaky hatch or something, it drips on me, but whatever, like everything is working great. I've still got my fuel, still got a ton of fuel. Sales are great. Everything, we changed everything out. So, I'm here. I'm in position. It's the right time, the right place, the right boat, the right everything. I can't say if the ice is going to open or not, but but if it does, I'll shoot through. If it doesn't, then I won't.
When's the next time? So you're going to be on a Starlink blackout for a little while here. So when will that I guess won't open up again until you get to Alaska?
Yeah, I really don't know what's going to happen with that. I've been trying to look into it. I thought originally it'd cut off by now. Because, what is the parameters that Starlink put in it? They baked it into their update or something like that, So at certain longitudes and latitudes, it cuts off. But you, as a guy who's too cheap to have the marine plan that I have, because I assume you're trying to save money there doing the non-ocean thing.
Well, we don't need it. We don't need it offshore. like you do. We're
Yeah,
not doing
well,
videos and social media and ice charts and shit.
that's
We still use it,
right.
but
Well, you don't even use a damn autopilot. You still make people hand steer. So
hell
you
yeah,
probably
that's
have
what
that
it's
little
for.
coffee grinder, make people hand
No,
grind their fucking
no,
coffee
we
beans.
do. We used to have that. We
Jesus
don't have that
Christ.
anymore. You might have been the one that finally deep sixed the hand ground coffee.
Well, welcome to the modern world here. But but when you go 12 miles offshore, that's when you get that message, right? Or
Yeah,
something like that.
yes, 12 miles.
And it's
Yeah,
pretty, and it's religious, right? You can
pretty
set your
accurate.
freaking
Yeah,
watch to it.
it's pretty accurate.
All
Yeah,
right. So what I read is that if you get within 12 miles of any Russian territory, including islands or anything, then you lose Starlink.
yeah,
And if that's true, I also have to talk to the FSB if I get within 12 miles of any Russian land. And there's a whole check-in process for that. It's kind of a bit of a pain because you got to check in, 24 hours ahead of time, 4 hours ahead of time, when you get in there, when you get out of there. And if you're only going through like 6 hours of it, of that 12-mile period, it's a lot of checking in and out. And it's the border guards. It's the FSB is kind of I don't know what, the FBI of Russia or something. I don't want to do that either.
yeah,
So I have a lot of motivation to stay 13 miles away from all bits of land. And maybe if I do, Starlink will continue to work. Maybe
yeah.
there's nobody to talk to. There's nobody I can ask. So all I
Right.
can do is get in there and see what happens. I got the Iridium and I've got that all set up and ready to go. So I can use that. I got to check in with Moscow every 24 hours.
And your tracker will still work, I guess, regardless, right? Because that's on
It's
Iridium.
Iridium.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And my Iridium executive will work. I got
yeah,
a mail service with it because, like I said, if I don't check in with Moscow every 24 hours, I get in serious trouble. So I have to be able to communicate. I have to have something, and I can't rely on Starlink as that form of communication. So,
yeah,
so we'll see, man. I mean, I hope it keeps working just for the ice charts, just so I can get easier access to ice charts. But outside of that, it'd be kind of nice to go dark for a while. But whatever, this is kind of a weird trip in that way, where there's so much connectivity, trying to promote this thing and promote the nonprofit and all the rest.
yeah.
Um,
Do you like that part of it, or does it annoy you?
um, I mean, if I won the lottery or something like that, and funding for the nonprofit wasn't an issue, and I wanted to do this trip, I wouldn't be doing that. I wouldn't make videos and stuff.
Yeah,
I would just do it. I mean, like I told you before, I'm the guy who biked through Southeast Asia and didn't take a single picture. It's not something, these are generally kind of personal trips, and sort of deeply personal in some ways. And, you don't really need to share it with the world. It's not the point. The point isn't, hey, look at me, I'm in the Arctic, it's so, but obviously the world we live in today, that is not going to help you raise money. This is a fundraiser for the nonprofit. We're trying to buy a new motor. I want to repower the research vessel because it's got an old motor in it. And it's going to cost at least $100,000 probably to do that. So, and that's with me doing a lot of the work. So, this is the world we live in, man. You got to put stuff out there on social media and YouTube and shit like that, or else you ain't going to raise any money.
yeah. Well, speaking of raising money, you've got to prepare for your big time NPR interview there, pal. So I'm going to let you go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That sounds good. All right, Andy. Well, look, I'll let you know what's going on. One way or another, we should catch up again. Either, at the end, or maybe the Northwest Passage, or God knows, the middle of the stupid Pacific when I had to bail and I'm drifting around north of Hawaii. Like, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah,
But
there you go.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
man,
We'll see what happens.
We'll do it. We'll keep keep sending me messages. I had a good laugh when you sent me that screenshot of your chart plotter at 81 degrees north. So keep in touch that way at least.
Yep. All right, man. Sounds
All
good.
right, dude. Sail safe.
Yep.
Hey guys. All right. Just wrapped up recording with Matt. Just hung up the phone, or hung up the internet. So cool. I want to do this reflection again while it's still fresh in my mind. Matt obviously has been on this podcast more than anybody else. I've known him since 2009, I think, 2008. I consider him one of my closest friends. And I just think it's so freaking cool that Matt, he mentions in here about the guy that owns his boat, Adam. who, like I said, was a former 59 North crew. He mentions how he was a man of his word and does what he says he's going to do. And Matt, I think, exemplifies that more than anybody else. And I think it's worth doubling down on that because, we often get apprentices that sail with us and people that ask me for career advice and stuff like that. And just in life in general, I think that's such an important thing and it's so easy. Just like do what you say you're going to do. And I remember when I started to write about Matt in Spin Sheet in Annapolis, like a local sailing magazine on the Bay, way back in the day. This was before his Around the Americas, when he had done this double solo transatlantic back and forth. In fact, that's when I met him, when he first got back from that. And I started writing about this Around the Americas thing that he was going to do, and like nobody believed it. And if anybody, the reaction was like, he's either going to kill himself or it's just not going to happen. And since then, like, not only did he do it, but he did it in a way. I remember like the media, the real media, started paying attention to it when he got around Cape Horn, and he like was through the Northwest Passage, got around Cape Horn. Tom Harkin, the senator, had spoke about him on the Senate floor because he was doing it as a fundraiser for CRAB, which is Chesapeake Region Accessible Boating. And Matt's always had like a bigger mission for his things. And, like he's like, well, hey, motherfuckers, I told you I was going to do this, and he did it. And, gradually, as he's done more and more and more of this, I think people start taking him more seriously. Like, I think it's pretty cool that this is the first time that I've seen him in like major media, like this Playboy article he talked about. He was going to be interviewed by NPR right after this. And I'm really happy that people are paying attention because Matt is his own worst enemy when it comes to like the salesmanship. He doesn't like promotion. He said that himself. He's like, if I won the lottery, I wouldn't do any of this stuff. I would just do the trip because it's very personal to him. So he's not so good at playing the game, but he always does what he says he's going to do. So when Matt says he's going to do something, take him seriously. And I just think that's such a good life lesson in general. Just do what you say you're going to do, and that's going to go a very, very long way in life for anybody that's listening to this. I really believe that. Just do what you say you're going to do. And, the caveat to that is be careful with what you say you're going to do. Don't overpromise. Underpromise and overdeliver is how I like to think about it. A couple other takeaways from this. I think it's a bummer. Matt's so stoic and kind of just like, it is what it is. I can't control the ice, can't control the weather, but it is a bummer that it's a bad ice year for him, and I hope it changes for his sake. I mean, I guess in the big picture, obviously with climate change and all the rest of that, this is, not the direction we want it to go. But I hope Matt makes it through this year because I know he wants to get back to his research stuff. I know this has taken up so much of his time and stress and stuff, and to have to abandon it before he gets a chance to really even attempt it would be a huge bummer. So I'm optimistic. I mean, this, like, the weather, like, what do they say? If you don't like the weather, just wait because it's going to change. And I hope that he makes it through. But I mentioned this during the interview, but I'm also struck by how conservative Matt is. Matt is very calculated. I love what he said about, in the big picture, this whole thing is nuts and very risky, but every day I'm evaluating and calculating my risks to minimize that. I really like that. I like Matt makes seamanship seem so simple. It's like, oh, ice and land, just stay in the middle. If it's an uncharted thing, most likely you're going to be fine in the middle. I mean, Matt does not make a big deal about any of this stuff. And Matt is one of the, what I think is one of the best examples of good seamanship because he makes it look easy. When he got back from his Around the Americas thing, we were out there was a media boat to welcome him into Annapolis when he made that final arrival. And people were asking me, they saw how pretty the sails looked and how nice the sails looked. And they're like, somebody asked me, did he get new sails just for this arrival to make the boat look nice? And if you had looked at the boat itself was a freaking mess. Like there was barnacles growing on the stern. It was a mess, but the sails were nice. And it's like, no, he just took care of his sails over that 30-some thousand mile trip. He knows how to take care of the boat. And, I get so sick of the sea story culture of social media and magazine articles and stuff where it's like, good seamanship is exemplified by putting yourself in a stupid situation and then getting out of it. And where Matt is just like, no, man, like I make it look easy. I do this crazy shit and I make it look easy. And to me, that is the ultimate good seamanship. It's just like, I'm gonna plan this properly and do it properly, and then I'm not going to have to use my good seamanship to get out of a tricky situation. So that's a huge takeaway for me. And Matt and I talked for almost an hour and a half here. I could have talked to him for a lot longer. And it's always weird when I have friends on this show, because when I'm interviewing somebody that I don't know, it's easier for me to sort of maintain my interviewer persona, so to speak. But like Matt knows the real me, like, when we're just hanging out. And it's harder for me to put on my interviewer face because I know I'm not being 100% authentic to Matt. This sounds worse than I mean it to be, but I think you know what I mean, where, I have of course, on the podcast, like anybody that's doing something professional, I have a professional version of myself. And for people that know the personal version of me, it's harder for me to switch into that mode. So hopefully that didn't become apparent in the interview. But to reiterate what Matt said, the whole reason he's doing all these interviews and this stuff is that this is a fundraiser for Ocean Research Project. Go support it. If you thought the interview was cool, if you think what Matt's doing is amazing, go support what he's doing. Go to oceanresearchproject.org, or better yet, come to our boat show party in the fall, where all the proceeds go directly to ORP, to Matt and Nicole's project. So I'll leave you with that. I hope you liked this episode as much as I did. I hope to have Matt back on the podcast after he's through a couple of these major pinch points, and I'll be following his progress. Okay. Until next week, hold fast. Thanks again to Weems and Plath and BVI Yacht Sales for sponsoring this episode of the show. On the Wind is the podcast about sailing, created by 59 North and hosted by me, Andy Schell. The show is mixed and produced by me and August in Sweden and Norway, respectively. The intro theme music is composed and performed by former podcast guest, sailor, and musician, and of course, friend of the pod, Cameron Dale, while the outro music you're hearing now is, of course, by our friends Storm Weather Shanty Choir, based in Bergen, Norway, just like Isbjorn. We love hearing from our fans, so send your questions and comments to holdfast@59-north.com, and please do us a favor and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, hold fast.